Alright, so I think everyone knows and hates what a Karen is by now, but that doesn't mean that those stories aren't still fun to read. So we're gonna go through them and we're gonna laugh and see how stupid these people are. Scammer male Karen demands refund and remake of bad food. He never ordered. Karen rings the phone at my restaurant. I'm the manager. I pick up. Thank you for calling, redacted. How can I help you today? Karen. Yes, I was in last night and ordered just 2 brisket sandwiches to go at 6:30 p.m. And when I got home, they were all fat. What are you going to do to fix this? Me. Well, I'm so sorry about that, sir. I can offer you a refund or a free remake if you'd like. Just give me one moment to check my system for your order around 6:30 p.m. last night. All orders and details are saved with times. Karen. You don't need to check crap. You need to give me new sandwiches. Looking in the system while on phone. I just need to verify the order was placed, and since you aren't in front of me with a receipt, I have to check my system. Karen. Yeah, whatever. Me. Sir, I don't see any order for just 2 brisket sandwiches anywhere near 6:30 p.m. last night. Would you happen to have a receipt, or was this possibly placed at a was going to say different location? Karen cuts me off. Are you calling me a effing liar? This is ridiculous. I paid $22 for slabs of fat, and you are going to fix this right now, or give me your shift manager. Me. I am the manager, sir. Karen. Where's the general manager? Me. I am the manager, sir. Karen. God damn it, I gave you a chance now. When I come back down there with my receipt, you are going to refund me and give me 2 new sandwiches. Me. Well, unfortunately, you don't get to make a demand like that, but if you bring in a receipt, I can give you one of 2 options. Karen cuts me off again. Demands? That's it. I'll give you my goddamn demands on Yelp. You've had your chance to fix this, you're a horrible effing manager, and I'm gonna get a hold of corporate. Me laughing now while speaking. Okay, you can go ahead and do that, buddy. I can't wait to read it and laugh some more. Thank you. Goodbye. It's been over a week and he never came in. And there's been no Yelp review. Scamming ass MFer. Definitely never ordered poop. Or he possibly ordered at a different location and realized after. But my bit's on the former. I think this guy just wanted some free food. You know, he was gonna push it, see how far he could get before you called him on it. Some old lady I met at a cemetery. I live in a town with a pretty old cemetery, and most of the graves have been unvisited for some years and haven't been maintained, so in the spring I'd buy a bunch of daffodils, and as they represent renewal and a new beginning, and leave each grave a flower, and a quick prayer as I believe their souls would feel some form of loneliness, and while I'm there I'd usually give them a gentle washing. So this year I was doing my usual thing, making my rounds, and I was washing in the back of a tombstone with this old woman, probably in her mid-70s, came over and started yelling. I say yelling as a loose term, as she probably would have lost her voice with a single sentence. Quit defiling those graves, you monster! And I will give her a benefit of the doubt from the angle she was. She wouldn't have seen what was happening on the other side, so I tried to explain that I was not defiling them, but simply cleaning them. But she completely blew up. Well, that's a job for the relatives. If you don't leave, I'll call the cops and have you arrested. And I calmly told her to do so if she pleases. And you guessed it, she called the cops. And an officer came and immediately told her to leave me alone and briefly joined me with paying my respects. I'm not big into religion, but is there something religiously wrong with what I'm doing? I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're doing. I think this person just wants to yell at someone. Maybe they did see what you're doing, maybe they didn't, but they seem like the type of person who just wants to yell about everything. A Karen walks in front of a car. So because I expect some suburban pedestrians to lack tact and self-preservation when crossing streets, I did a rolling stop after the pickup window and a scan of the crosswalk ahead, expecting some nonsense to fly out of the wings. My wife tells me to watch out, and for sure, there's a mom dragging her child past my passenger door, trying to race to the entrance before I fill the road. So when I see her and stop, of course she throws up exasperated hands like she will begrudgingly allow me to go. I quickly glean that she is not going to use that crosswalk. I clearly put my car in park and gesture to them to cross and say, I see you now. I used to jaywalk close to a car's rear bumper, but I don't understand a jaywalker in impotent rage with the front bumper of a car. This Karen could not use the excuse that she thought I was waiting for fries because there are designated parking spots everyone uses. The mother safely reached the big lobby window to give me a nasty look. A nasty, learned nothing look. And I feared for the child. I said, it's called a blind spot, and now you know where it is. Yeah, some people completely lack self-preservation, and I don't know why, but they think they'd win in the fight of car versus human. A Karen deals with the outcome of using a handicapped parking spot when she was not handicapped. My favorite handicapped parking Karen story is from the 80s. A friend who was in a wheelchair had one of those old school vans with a side opening door and a heavy metal platform that lowers out into the extra space in the parking lot so he could drive his wheelchair out and lower himself down. He pulled up to the bank and parked in one of those double-sized spaces and prepared to lower the ramp down when a woman in a new Cadillac pulled into the extra space and proceeded to jump out of the car. He told her he needed the space to lower his ramp down. She told him to wait as she would only be a minute and proceeded to run into the bank. My friend's lift was extremely heavy and well built, so he proceeded to repeatedly attempt to open it onto the roof of her car, breaking the window and denting and scratching the paint. The woman came screaming out of the bank, yelling at him to stop. She had someone call the police, whom upon arrival proceeded to give her a ticket for parking in a handicap spot, and her insurance had to pay out the repairs to his lift. I think this Karen got exactly what they deserved. Clearly this Karen was not handicapped and they tried parking in a handicapped spot. You screw around, you find out, you know? Karen calls the police. Her car gets towed. I'm backed into a handicapped spot outside of a big box store. I had just barely put the car in park and yet to put my tag in the window when another car pulled out into the hatch mark area next to me. This middle-aged woman gets out of the car cussing me out because now she needs to park illegally because of people like me who park in handicapped spots without a tag. I let her go on for a good 30 seconds while I finished taking my hearing aids out as they started to hurt my ears. I then opened my door and looked directly at her while I took the tag from the door and hung it on the mirror. The look of shock on this woman's face was priceless. I only wish I could have taken a picture. She walks away ranting and raving about how much of a butthole I am for letting her go on like that, telling me it's all my fault. I go into the store and she's still hootering and hollering about what now? I'm glad I don't know. I go on about my shopping, check out, and then head back out to the car. As I'm approaching, I see 2 police cars in front of my car with 2 officers chatting. Thinking nothing of it, I put my bags in the trunk and close it. One of the officers asks if this is my car. Yes, is there a problem? They explained they received a call from an irate shopper who stated the person driving my car, me, was harassing her. I started laughing so hard I couldn't breathe. They just stared at me confused. I then had the pleasure of telling my story. They laughed as well and said that my story lines up better with what they saw on the camera as well as what the associate at the door said. They ran my information, verified my handicap tag was valid, and said I was good to go. The officer of the police car that was in front of me never moved their car, so I couldn't leave, but I sure didn't mind. I wanted to see what happened. I watched as the lady turned white as a ghost when she came out of the doors to see her car being strapped down to the back of a tow truck. Her white then went to red as she was handed a number of citations. It turned out her car had suspended plates, her license was suspended, and the handicap tag displayed had been void for being used illegally. Side note for those who may not know, you can only park in the designated spot when the person who was issued the tag is in the vehicle. The person need not be the driver. If you are found to be in violation of this, the tag may be suspended or revoked. She stood around screaming at anyone who had the misfortune of being in her vicinity. I drove out of that parking lot with a big giant grin on my face. I don't know what you expect when you're doing stuff illegally and you have violations and then you try to call the police about it. I mean, they're gonna do some background and they're gonna figure out the truth. Most of the time. There seems to be a lot of handicapped parking spots today. McDonald's Karen yells at my kid. I'm still a little shaken, rattled, and rolled about this, but I just experienced a Karen moment, and I'm angry at him, but also angry that I didn't defend my kid harder. My kid is 9, and like all 9-year-olds, he has a lot of energy, which he usually tempers in public, because he also has extreme social anxiety, to the point where we have him in therapy for it. He's generally a well-behaved little dude. He says please and thank you, apologizes unprompted when he makes mistakes, takes his hat off at dinner table before being asked, corrects people politely when they use offensive language, does what he's asked without complaint. Heart of a lion, demeanor of a lamb. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've had to discipline him in the last few years because he's just not a problematic kid. So my dad and I took him to McDonald's for a quick lunch. Since he has never once changed his order, we told him to go grab a seat on one of the long benches by the window. I went to go grab napkins and ketchup while my dad ordered, and when I sat down, my son immediately said, "Mom, can we please go eat in the car? I don't want to be here anymore." Took a minute of prompting before he admitted that he'd been sort of rocking in his seat because he was nervous sitting alone. It's something the therapist has recommended we do as it's a small discomfort and helps him get more comfortable being independent. The sitting alone, not the rocking. And I guess the bumping annoyed the elderly couple at the next table. So the man turned to him and yelled at him to cut it the F out. and the woman then hissed, "Seriously, stop it." And I asked, did he yell, or did he just say it kind of loudly? And he said no, he definitely yelled and then slapped his hands on the table. Y'all, he wasn't even at the table for more than 2 minutes tops. I told him we wouldn't be leaving, but that I doubted he'd say anything else since I was there, so he was safe. When my dad sat down between him and the couple, he eased up enough to eat in complete silence, and the couple looked mildly uncomfortable because it was obvious my son had said something, but I could tell he was still shaken. I chose not to confront the couple because I didn't want to stoop to their level, but then they finished their coffees, which, let's be honest, we all know they'd been camping with since 10 a.m, and the man walked up to me, jabbed the shoulder, and said, sorry, he was bumping into the bench and it was really annoying. And I was so stunned, the only thing I could think to say was, okay, well maybe don't yell at my kid. What I wanted to say was, yell at my kid again and it'll be the last words you utter. My dad said, was that guy serious? And I told him what had happened, and I had to stop him from getting up and throwing hands with him because jail doesn't have a seniors menu. Yes, I get it that it was probably annoying, but there were other options. A, say to him politely, hey, could you please stop, it's disruptive, which he absolutely would have done, and he even would have apologized because that's who he is as a person. Or B, wait till I sat down a minute later and said, hi, excuse me, could you please ask your son to stop that? Which it wouldn't have even come to because he was simply antsy waiting for us to sit down while he was alone and vulnerable in an open concept area full of people. Anyway, F you, McDonald's Karen. I hope you felt super powerful and smug yelling at someone a tenth of your age and half of your size, with an order of magnitude more social grace. Yeah, it's funny when a kid manages to humble an old man. It's something with some people that they have to just yell at someone. Maybe it's pent-up anger or something, but maybe they hate the cards they were dealt in life, but they just have to yell at everyone over just minor things. I mean, a kid rocking back and forth in a chair. Kids run around restaurants, they do all this stuff. Rocking in your chair is not that bad. In terms of standing up for the kid more, I mean, possibly, but I mean, you still have the time to talk to your kid and let them know that he's supported, and I think that's more important than completely standing up to the old person. My first experience with a Karen. One day I was out horse riding. At this time, I think I was 13. Now this story may be short because I don't have the best memory, but I was on a bridle path on the pony with another woman leading me who owns the horse. Lovely lady. But we were walking along like normal, the woman leading the horse while I was steering. Some people walked past with dogs or kids and did the respectable thing of putting their dogs on leashes or keeping their kids to the side so we can go past without the horse getting spooked. Until these two women, I think a mother and her daughter with 3 sheepdog puppies. They put them on the lead and we waited at the side so they could go past. However, as soon as they got a step past, they took the dogs off leads, and of course they weren't far enough away, and the puppies went to try and round up the horse, who has a bad fear of dogs due to being attacked in the past, so she started spinning and galloping while I was on it. I ended up having to hold on for dear life before falling off and hitting my head. Luckily I had a helmet and I wasn't hurt, but as I came out of the daze and shock of being thrown off a horse, I heard the woman that owned the horse shouting at the other 2 ladies. The woman with the puppies didn't even care about me, a young girl being on the floor and possibly hurt. I had to walk back to the stables due to the horse being too unstable to ride until she calmed down. I was obviously shaken up and felt uneasy to ride for a few weeks after. Put your dogs on leads, don't let your kids shout or wave sticks around horses. This incident could have went much wrong. The dogs could have been trampled, I could have been trampled. I think everyone knows that horses are big animals and very responsive, and it's best just to respect them and give them the space that they need. My dad's a Karen. Sorta. My dad was a Karen when I was growing up. He would be rude to employees and other people, and one thing I remember vividly, we went to a Mountain Mike's pizza place, and we had ordered ahead, and when we came to pick it up, they said it was going to be done a little later than intended. They said they were understaffed, and my dad got mad at the employee at the counter. He asked for the employee's manager. Turns out they were the manager. My dad then asked for their manager. He asked for the manager's manager. I've never been more embarrassed for my dad than I was in that moment. Thankfully, my dad has changed and is being better to employees, but I still think about that time every now and again. I think that what goes on through some of these people's mind is that they're like, yeah, well, I need to be tough to make sure that they do everything right. I'm not going to make your pizza faster just because you yelled at me. If anything, I'm going to make it slower and worse. I don't think they completely get the logic, but good on your dad for reforming. I never knew Karens existed in my country as well, until I got hit by a full broadside today. So here where I live, nobody talks about Karen. Of course, we have selfish and grown-up adults that don't know how to act as grown-up adults. But I never saw any person that really fits the Karen vibe until today. This story literally happened an hour ago. I went to McDonald's for some lunch. When I got there, I realized it was packed. It seems like multiple classes from a school trip were here, or something like this. I just hoped I'd get a seat. So I got my order and got to a table where the people sitting there just got up. It was a table for 4 people, but since I didn't see any smaller tables being free, I sat down. Enter Karen, Kay, a 50 or so year old woman with a 3 or 4 year old boy. They came in the restaurant looking for a place to sit. Kay sees everything is full and sees me sitting alone at a table. Kay came to me demanding I would get up and make space for her. I looked up confused. She continued saying I should stop being selfish and not occupy more space than I need. I said it was the last free table I saw, but they can sit on the seats next to me, and I began making space for them. But that was the moment Kay lost it. She called me a P-file and said she would never let her boy sit next to me. For context, I'm in my early 20s and I did not look at the kid for one moment, so I was kind of confused as why she would call me that. I said, okay, he can sit on the other side of the table and she can sit on the chair next to me. She began to shout, "So you can rob me? A poor old lady?" Staff came over to see what was going on. I tried to explain the situation through the shouting of Kay because I didn't want the staff to get even more stressed as they are. The staff had none of it. They told Kay to leave the restaurant. She started something about oppressed and got escorted out of the restaurant. The end? Not quite. Kay literally came back into McDonald's. She made a huge scene, screaming everyone takes advantage of the old weak woman or something like that. I literally got secondhand embarrassment, and I really hope none of the school kids takes inspiration after her. Kay shouted at me to give her the table. She shouted at the staff for not oppressing her. I don't know if that's the right translation. And she shouted at everyone else in the restaurant to help her. The staff brought her and the kid out to the restaurant once more. My table was very close to the entry, so I saw how one of the staff was standing next to the door, making sure that they couldn't come in again. Nonetheless, Kay continued shouting and glaring at me until a minute or so some cops came and brought her away. I literally didn't expect this to happen here. I've never heard of similar stories, but it seems Karens are like wasps. They really do live on all continents, and wherever they are, they annoy the poop out of people. I feel sorry for the kid who only wanted some lunch and am wondering what will follow. When the cops took Kay away, she glared at me once more through the entryway. Did I create a new supervillain here? That's definitely supervillain origins. If not, just the middle of the story, this person's already a supervillain. It's something about fast food, parking spots. Are these people like this in all areas of life, or is it, just in handicapped parking spots, just at McDonald's and other fast food restaurants? The common denominator is probably just them. It's probably them. Alright, I think that's enough frustration from these Karens for today. Like the video, subscribe, watch another one, and we'll see you in another video.